Hi everyone, I'm Rocco, and this is Wilna, and we're starting a podcast. So Wilna, why are we starting a podcast?
Okay, so we decided to do a podcast about, oh my word, it's about 6 months ago. We spoke about this, and we've been on this whole journey. These last 2 years was quite intense. Rocco and I both moved away from your traditional forms of employment. We had a child. Everything was just so new, and we we started to, well, Rocco started to trade, and it opened our eyes to a different way of seeing the world. And my personal background is politics.
Yeah,
And
I mean you've got an honors degree in
yes,
political
yes,
sciences. Let's not
yes,
let's
yes,
not mess about. And I've got a bachelor's degree in law, majoring in entrepreneurship. So we've always been serial entrepreneurs, to be quite honest.
yes, basically. And with this whole change that we went through, we saw this opportunity about to speak about what is going on, what's going on at the moment. And I think 6 months ago, no one would know that this is where we'll be today. The world is ridden by the coronavirus. Everyone has these, governments has these lockdown plans, and all of a sudden, traditional ways of thinking, traditional ways of doing, your traditional systems, everything is being challenged in a major way. We spoke this morning about we have a liquor ban at the moment, and we spoke about people that started their microbreweries and things like that. That was very big. Like how many years ago? 3 years ago.
No, I think like 5 or 6 years ago
It was
was the
very
big
big in
boom.
South Africa. And if you did that, you were future proofed. You were like in with the new stuff and everything. And now those guys, how do they make a living? So we have this new way of doing. And I feel that we've been on this journey now for 2 years already.
Yes.
This is not new to us, but I think that we're seeing all of a sudden everything is falling into place. And that's why I think we started, or we said, let's do a podcast. Let's talk about this. Let's talk about things that's going on and how we perceive it, me and you.
Well, I think what we're trying to do is put a trading filter over what's happening in the world and seeing it from that perspective. Because trading ultimately, I believe, opens your eyes to what's really going on. This whole move with Corona and with the coronavirus, I mean, it's a pattern, right, at play. It's a pattern that came from about 2 years ago, and it's starting to play out now. So when you look at things for a specific filter, I think it opens your eyes to a new reality. And with us being on this journey, we just started to see everything, like you said, falling into place. And then we thought, but we need to put these conversations that we are not seeing in the mainstream media or not even our friends are talking about it. We need to put it out there for people to comment on and hopefully help
Yeah.
people to see what we see, just like I said, in a different perspective.
Yeah. So basically. So today we thought about discussing this journey and saying, okay, so this is where we're coming from and what's going on now.
Yeah, so ultimately with this podcast, what we're going to try and do is we're going to try and get our thoughts across as clearly as possible. We're going to get some of South Africa's best entrepreneurs to come and talk about what they're busy with. But mainly it's going to be me and Volna talking to you guys about how we see the world and how we view it, and also going forward, what we're busy with trying to future proof ourselves against what's happening. And that's our topic of today is what the hell is going on. And I think Volna with her political science degree is maybe in the best spot to lead us off in this conversation.
So you mentioned something very insightful now, and that opened our eyes. Is in trading you can see, looking at the markets, looking at different countries, continents, etc., you see patterns. And since trading has started and you have data for that, you see patterns re-emerging, and you can compare the data with previous
Data sets.
data sets, but I mean like also like in history. You
Yeah.
can say what we are seeing
Historically,
here,
yes, that's the word you're looking for.
historically this is similar.
Yes.
So, and with the coronavirus now, we find that it's not out of place. The reaction there too is not out of place. If you look at reactions and the market reacting,
We've seen it before, basically.
we've seen it before.
It's not new.
This-
By all means, it's
but-
not new.
Corona, how we view it now, and how governments are responding, banks are responding, which is business, they're all responding in a fast forward way. So we're missing due diligence. If I can put it like that. I don't know if it's the right way to put it, but
But let's explore that a bit. When you say due diligence, what do you mean?
so, for instance, the other day I explained how I view the coronavirus, and I explained it to someone, and I'm going to use that here because I told them, you are in your vehicle and you see you are going to be in a car crash. So you know this is going to happen. And what differentiates what type of accident you are going to be in is the time you have that you realize it, the options you explore, and you make plans accordingly because you know you are going to be in an accident. The world
It's inevitable.
It is inevitable. So that's where we are going to. So
Right.
I see that the responses that people and government and business is supposed to have with this accident is basically, it's not there. It's muffled.
Why do you
behind
think
this-
why?
This coronavirus, which is this huge thing,
So the corona is basically just a shield for
it's a fast forward button. I think.
It's a fast forward button for the inevitable.
Yes. The inevitable, which is a financial system breakdown.
Like we had with when gold basically when they replaced the gold standard with fiat currency. That was basically a big financial event.
Yes.
Right? Before that, we had the Spanish flu, similar to what we're going through now. So you start to connect the dots and you start to see the patterns re-emerging. But what's interesting is that South Africans seem to look at what's going on in a localized context and saying, oh, our president, our party, or our country.
Yeah.
And we're completely missing the bigger picture as to this isn't local, this
It's
is
a global.
international.
This is a global phenomena.
So, I mean, if you take the Americans' response, it's different from the Asian response, right? So, basically, what you're seeing is we are, you know, in horse racing, when you've got when you've got these shields on the horses. So we're looking, and that's why you said to me, these poor craft brewers, right? Because they started these businesses and now basically Corona's hit and they don't know what to do. And they're looking at the world like this.
Yeah.
And they're not taking the claps off and saying, but hey, what is going on? So that's a problem. The media is also a problem. I don't believe the media is completely the enemy, but it's a systematic issue.
The media as such always portrays, well, we are taught, I don't know about in other countries how this goes, but you are taught what you read in the media is true, you know. So fake information, fake news and all this stuff has really like hit a lot of South Africans hard because they can't differentiate between what's real and what's not.
But can you blame them?
No, I can't blame them, but that's the situation we sit with. So the media has a very important role to play, but they are, in my view, always tainted. They all jump on one story.
That's
And they-
clickbait, right? Because, I mean,
right.
it's a business.
It's a business, and we have to view it as such. And so I think a lot of the information coming through is let's sell instead of let's give people proper news.
Correct. Because in trading, for example, we don't follow the news because you might have a situation where just the past time or with the corona sell-off, we're not going to call it a crash, we're just going to call it a correction. You had the worst jobless figures in US history. And what happened to the stock price? I mean, we've seen NASDAQ all-time highs. Wall Street recovering, well, not necessarily in a V recovery, but it's recovered significantly. It was like 75% of its value. So there's a disconnect between what the news is telling us and what is actually happening in the markets and the liquidity that's being moved around.
Yes.
Like from the Asian side into the Europeans and to the Americas. So this brings me to my point is there is this event called Corona, the Corona event, which was blamed for everything that we're going through now. But was it everything, or is it everything that we're going through now? Was it already in place? And like you said, it's just an acceleration of what was the inevitable.
It's nothing new. This is not an event that is causing something. It is an event that is just putting a bit of a spin on, a fast forward on what is already happening in the world.
Let's take that hypothesis and say, let's assume it's true. What do businesses do now, given that hypothesis? Let's play devil's advocate and say, this is the ultimately the rise of China or the Asian world order. And what do I do as a business now? Because I've always held I've maintained the the notion that if you don't have policy surety, you can't have investment in something, and there can't be growth. So how do you start a business when there is, from government side? I mean, you like you said with the liquor, it's a flip-flopping of policy. Yes, you can. No, you can't. So do I take out a loan and pay my staff, or do I close everything down? In a political in a political framework, or using a political filter, what would you say to businesses?
My advice to businesses would be to view what is currently going on in the world and in your country and with policy, to view it as a type of a new normal. A lot of business owners I've spoken to has the first thing they told me is like, when we return to normal, and it's like, no, we're not going to have that return to normal. This is it. This is it for now. This is it for the foreseeable future. It's not going to change because this is not an event in isolation. It is something that is already happening. The world is going towards a certain point financially.
And politically?
Everything is connected. Financially, politically, it's all connected. So you need to view your business to be able to be very flexible, to be able to respond to new wants and needs, because those are not the same anymore.
That's a very good point.
And I think people are clinging to the notion that wants and needs are going to return how they were pre-corona. And it's not, because it's not just corona. It's the financial system, the world financial system is under so much strain because the system itself is taking so much abuse. It's going to change. Ways that we have been taught to spend money, to save money, to what you need in life.
Oh, that's out of the window.
But people don't realize that.
No,
people are not having this conversation. They're thinking, how can I continue with my life like it was 8 months ago? Instead of saying, this is a new normal. How are we going to respond to this? How am I going to adapt? How am I going to adapt my business? How am I going? Yes.
Just stand still with that point for how would you adapt if I'm a craft brewer? I mean, I think we're standing on this topic because they banned liquor, so I'm just thinking about liquor the whole time. But if you're a craft brewer, Wilna, and your government says there's a prohibition on alcohol, what do you do? Do you take out a loan and pay your staff and hope it comes right?
No.
That's the hard part, right? Is selling or telling someone to basically cut their losses and pivot to something else. There's a great example of a company that did it in Cape Town. It's one of my favorite breweries is Woodstock Brewery.
No.
And they became a soup kitchen. I mean, completely overnight. They just pivoted and they took all their boilers and everything. And I mean, I followed the whole process on Facebook. And now they're basically a soup kitchen, but they're still in business. Is it profitable? I don't know. But they pivoted, at least, instead of being in a situation where
You are waiting for something to return to normal, which it is not.
So there's a different want and need, right? Because the want now is, the want and the need is now that we've got mass amount of hungry people on the streets, and we need to find a way to feed them. So that's one way of that they did it, but it's hard. And I want to make this clear. When I'm saying this, I'm not being like facetious, or I'm not. I mean, I've got full respect for entrepreneurs, and you built this business, but
That's something that worked.
Oh yeah,
It's not a fail. You didn't start with a business that was failing. It was doing very good.
Craft breweries were at the epicenter, top 1% of innovation. So they thought that they were future-proofing themselves. Yeah. But what I'm saying is, and I want to say to all the entrepreneurs today is, don't treat your don't treat your business like your baby.
Yeah,
it's because you are going to attach too much emotions to that process or to that event. And it's something that you don't want to hear, but you need to hear it today.
Yeah.
If I'm given the choice of a bailout or a cut and run scenario and pivot to something else, I'll always pivot first.
You have to.
I mean, basically, that's why me and Wilna, myself and Wilna we started this podcast, because we want to share our experiences from where we pivoted. I mean, right before Corona, Wilna was one of the, she was a world-renowned ceramist. I mean, you had shows in Singapore, and in, I can't remember now well, but anyways, and we had to make a decision about what are we going to do. We see art going online, but ultimately, is that sustainable? Because art is such a visual, sensory experience.
I actually need to revisit my own my own career in the arts. Yeah.
So I think let's start to wrap this conversation up and saying that people need to open their eyes to what's really going on. Entrepreneurs need to take a very hard look at their businesses. They need to try and price in what government is going to do.
And you have to realize that needs and wants are changing, and that you need to be able to be there.
Yes.
For your customers and for everyone, and say, this is what we have to do now.
Yes.
And it's different, and it's difficult. It's very difficult.
No one says it's going to be easy.
No.
From myself, Rocco, and Wilna, we want to thank you for tuning into our first episode. You can follow us on www.wrcapital.co.za. All our social media links we'll post in the feed. And we really hope that through this process, we will reach more people and we will help more people. And what's the word I'm looking for, Wilna?
I don't know.
Until next time. Cheers.
Cheers.